Okay, well, it's 5:01, so let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the TBCC Board Meeting. Obviously, this is a hybrid meeting tonight because of inclement weather, so thanks everyone for being flexible. We wanted for not only board members, but also staff to be able to get home before it freezes and, just in case we didn't want people to have to drive home late in freezing weather. So we can move right into well, do we have any guests? Do we have any guests in the room?
We do.
Okay, if we have guests in the room, will you please unmute and introduce yourself?
Well, and Mary Faith, just so you know, we have at least one career-to-career scholarship student who was going to introduce herself as well. So Noelle's online, so she'll
Fabulous. That's wonderful. Jim, welcome.
Yes, I'm Jim Heffernan. I've applied for the vacant Zone 3 position and intend to run for the position in the upcoming election. And just out of the love for the community college.
Well, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Nice to meet you, Jim.
Well, nice meet you.
Do we have any other guests? Okay.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Aurelie and I am the ASTBCC Vice President. So I'm here to give a rundown of what we've done so far. So
Wonderful. Aurelie, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
thank you.
Thank you.
And so are we ready to have Noelle kind of talk to us if she's ready?
Oh, if she'd like to.
Noelle, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hang on. I'm trying to.
Okay, sorry.
There we go. No, that's okay. I had my normal scholarship speech that I had ready to go, but my internet stalled. So I'll give a basic. So I'm Noelle Wasmer. I'm finishing up my Associates of Science this year, and I plan on applying for the nursing program. I am a stay-at-home mom to 2 kids. I have a little boy who'll be 3 next week, and our little girl will be 4 months on Saturday. So I decided to stay home after I had my son. And after some lengthy discussions with my husband, we decided for me to go back to school. And I met with Clara and we went through about 3 months of talking and getting everything ready. And then I started that spring term. Only planning on going for my nursing program. And then beginning of this year, we found out I was only a few credits shy of the Associates of Science. So we added those classes in. Because I'm a stay-at-home, my husband works a lot of hours and a lot of long days, especially right now in the winter time, because he is the supervisor for his well transport. So he hauls milk and everything like that. And when weather gets bad, he's in a truck for days. Last year, he did over 70 hours straight in a truck between running from farm to farm, trying to make sure everyone gets picked up on time. So he works really hard for me and everything like that for our family. So I rely heavily on scholarships and things like that. So I don't have to take out any loans or put anything on a credit card because, as all of you know, credit cards suck, especially with amounts after school. So I completely forgot about the C2C until Clara reminded me because we were struggling on how to afford last term. So I applied. Rhoda sent me my acceptance letter and everything like that beginning of the term. And so I just wanted to say thank you all for donating your time, your commitment to the college, being able to grant money to this scholarship in particular, because it really does help. I spend a lot of time taking care of my kids during the day. I'm up late at night doing homework. I have my own business that I do also. So in the midst of my chaos, I'm also working kind of. Like right now I'm working on 48 hoodies and 10 coffee mugs and doing school and everything like that. So just really appreciative of all of you guys.
Noelle, thank you so much. It means a lot to us to know how the career-to-career scholarship and other scholarships how they really help people. You know, what's the real application in our community? And I'm really grateful that you're here and that you talked to us about your journey and that the Career to Career Scholarship is helpful to you. And it means a lot. So thank you for being here. Would you entertain questions if the board members have any questions for you?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you. Anybody?
I don't think I have a question, but I love hearing your story and I very much admire people that go back to school because it's so hard to do. So especially with
It
kids.
is. Yeah, like Clara, a little side note, Clara says that I'm insane a little bit because I was pregnant almost all of last year. I found out in February. I had my daughter in October. I was still taking classes throughout this. David Coulter is my psych teacher, and he taught me last term, and he looked at me with utter shock because I went back to class a week postpartum. I went in on Tuesday. We had our daughter. I was discharged on Thursday, and the following Tuesday I was back in class.
That's commitment.
That's commitment.
Yeah, it was a little much probably, but well worth it. Everyone was super supportive. Clara made sure that I had notes and anything taken care of if I need it. She's been great about reaching out, offering any assistance for my family, especially with having 2 young kids. I have to have another procedure here in a couple weeks, and everyone has just been really great keeping me on track. So
Nice work.
That's kind of the beauty of a small college. And I think TBCC exemplifies helping the students. And I'm glad to hear your
it
story.
really does.
It's just, yeah,
And
I'm
I'll
so
say
proud of our
so
staff.
much. Thank you
I
so
was
much,
very
Noelle, for
fortunate.
sharing your beginning steps to get back into the action there. Thank you,
Oh,
Noelle.
If I didn't go back when I did, I wasn't gonna go back.
It's all right.
I was going to say I was fortunate enough to have Nicole in the class. I taught one semester or one quarter, and Nicole was in my class. So it's awesome, Noelle. I appreciate all your efforts, and I'm really glad to see you back and hard at it.
Okay. So Noelle, I just have to say one thing. My name is Shannon Hoff, and I am a registered nurse. And I just want to tell you what a great choice you are making, and you're already showing that you have the perseverance to be a great nurse. So I'm excited to welcome you into the field.
Thank you.
So needs your energy.
I chose nursing because of our local labor and delivery nurses. Like I had a really hard labor with my son, and they were supportive through the entire thing, not just to me, but to my husband as well. He hadn't changed a newborn diaper, and she walked him through it, how to swaddle him, how to take care of him, and everything like that. So that's my goal, is to become a labor and delivery nurse here in town.
Good job.
Great.
Yes, it's a great team there.
It is. I love them all.
They're great.
We all wish you well, Noelle.
Thank you.
Truly. Thanks for joining us. We get to start this meeting on a real high note with you, Noelle. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's move into the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda
Yes.
and the minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Any changes or questions about the minutes?
I have one little picky, and Lori will attest. Andrea always has a picky thing to say. So in the January 6th minutes, it down under consent agenda, it says approval of February 5th, 2024 meeting minutes. It should have been December.
Yes.
Right? December, whatever date that was.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I will correct that. Thank you.
You know, sorry, Lori, I just, everything else is so perfect, but I always pick on one little thing like that.
Totally okay. I'm sorry I overlooked that.
Yeah, good catch, Andrea. Thank you. Okay, anything else about the minutes? If not, we can move on to the personnel report with Kylie.
All right, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got our ongoing Vice President of Instruction interviews. We've got 4 on-campus interviews starting tomorrow. We have one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, and then we have another 2 the following week. So we'll and those are like half day on campus interviews. So we're excited to get those going. We have hired a IT support specialist named Denton, and he started on January 6th. So we are really excited to have him help us out with all our IT needs, especially when HR breaks things. So our workforce development support specialist, we're in the process of interviewing. We just had 5 Zoom interviews last week, and we plan on having an in-person probably this week or next. And then for the CTE apprenticeship coordinator, we have made some changes to that position. And so that's been restructured, and we've got an internal hire for that one. And for our financial aid advisor, we hired Gio Romani, and she comes to us from California. No, where did Palm Springs? Something like that. And so she's excited to see snow. And both, so our new 2 new hires are amazing. We're very lucky to have them. So that's the personnel report.
Thank you, Kylie. Any questions for Kylie? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Betsy. I approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. This is Tamara.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into new business, starting with 4A, Budget Committee membership, and President Gerald will cover this for us.
Thank you, Chair Bell. CFO Montazeri is out ill with flu, and so I will do my best to cover through some of these that we have here. So as you know, each year we need to reaffirm our Budget Committee membership. It's that time of the year to do that. We have listed for you in the board packet the slate of community representatives that we have there. There is only a couple changes. We have updated the term for Steve Vanderhoff, his appointment, and Chris Weber, who was a community representative, informed us that he wanted to take a little time away from serving in this capacity. Lucky for us, we had an interested candidate who is familiar with the college, Kathy Gervasi, who was interested in serving on the budget committee. So we would ask for your approval of this slate of budget committee membership.
Thank you. I think that's a wonderful way for Kathy to continue to be involved with the college. That's terrific.
Yeah.
Yep.
Board members, do we have a motion to approve the slate for the budget committee?
This is Shannon, and I will make a motion to approve the slate for the budget committee.
And I second that. This is Andrea.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of this slate for the budget committee, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Mary Faith, we were so excited to get to new business. We jumped right past public comment. I'm not sure if there is anybody you may want to.
Thank you. Thank you. I am happy to return to public comment and invite the public to comment at this time at the beginning of the meeting. Is an opportunity for the public to comment on any issue within the jurisdiction of the college. Is there anybody who'd like to make public comment tonight? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 4B, which is budget assumptions and guidelines. Again, President Jarrett.
Thank you, Chair Bell. Again, I'll do my best to fill in for CFO Montazeri. Each year as we begin to develop the budget, we present to the board our budget assumptions and guidelines really just for discussion. This is an information item. We're not asking for action. What we will do as we develop the budget assumptions further, and are ready to implement them into the budget development process, we'll bring those to the board. Those items that do impact the budget, in particular, salary, benefits, tuition, fees, and things like that. So in March, we will be bringing to the board a recommendation for those items. But I just wanted to kind of give you a sense of what our assumptions are as we're still working our way through the budget development process. We are actually tracking pretty well from a budget point of view this year. So it looks like we will probably end this fiscal year a little bit higher than we anticipated. So we will probably start, looks like we'll be starting beginning fund balance for 25-26 fiscal year right around 1.4 million. We usually target around 1.2 million, but we're a little bit ahead of schedule here for that. It looks like, as you know, in an odd year, we don't really know what our budget's going to be from the state, and we function, for state revenue. The Community College Support Fund, the governor's recommended budget for the biennium was 870 million. There's still a little uncertainty about what that includes and doesn't include, and that is still about $50 million less than what the Oregon Community College Association felt was needed for just maintaining current service level at status quo. So there is a gap there. I don't think that's going to impact TBCC as much as it does some of the larger institutions if we don't get up to that. Our allocation typically is in the 1.1% range of the Community College Support Fund. So for 1 year of that biennium budget, that would amount to about 4.6 million in revenue from the state for us. We actually think it's going to be a little bit higher than that because we've already received for this year 4.65 million. So we're pretty sure we're going to be at least at what we are this year and maybe a little bit better. So we'll probably budget a little conservatively for that, especially in light of some unknowns that might happen with federal funding and things like that moving forward. So we'll probably go into that a little bit more conservative, but it looks like we should be in the $4.6 million range for Community College Support Fund. And of course, the other two sources of revenue for us are property taxes locally and tuition and fees from students. So our budget is dependent quite a bit on the Community College Support Fund. So it's important that we try to get as close to that as we can. Several of you will be, some of you, I'm not sure how many, will be attending legislative days with us when we get into March, where we actually will go to Salem and lobby our representatives for support for some additional funding for community colleges. As far as expenses, about 84% of our expenses are on personnel, which is not unusual for a community college. We like to try to keep up with inflation as best we can. It has been a tough couple years, and I acknowledge that for a lot of our employees. So we're going to do our best to try to meet some of the needs that are there with inflation. We certainly will provide a step increase to individuals that are step eligible, which are most of our employees, and that's at 3% with an additional step on their pay. And then I put down in the board packet there the latest values, or at least when I had put this together, for what the inflation indices are. And you can see that they range for, from 2.1 to 2.7% or so. And these are probably a little on the low side, but just to give you an example. So the CPIW index is what the federal government uses for Social Security increases and things like that. So we would like to be able to track at least at that. And we're looking at maybe being able to go as high as 3% or so. We're still crunching a little bit of numbers. And again, it's kind of challenging because we don't really know what our revenue is going to be yet, but we'll do the best we can there. So probably 3% step increase, 2.5 to 3% cost of living allowance. So we're looking at somewhere in the 5.5 to 6% increase for most of our employees there. Again, wish we could do more, but I will say that many of our sister institutions are having to still do budget reductions in light of that. So I do feel we're fortunate and we should be able to maintain our current service levels without doing any staff reductions, even if the budget comes in at the $870 million in the governor's recommended budget, and still be able to provide a reasonable increase. We also, I think as I'd mentioned last year, we had been lagging a little bit in our health insurance premiums that we provide, and we're trying to make some movement there. We do anticipate, again, adding probably $40 to $60 or so per month in what the college contributes to the health plan. The good thing is that, a single employee, we can take care of all of our benefits packages would allow for what our allowance to cover a single employee. It does not yet cover an employee plus one if that's a family or a spouse, and we're trying to get close so that we can be able to say we can do that. And again, feel good about that. We also haven't changed our opt-out premiums either. So if an employee doesn't use our insurance because they're covered by a spouse or another plan, we do provide an opt-out bonus back, but it's nowhere near the monthly contributions that we make. And it's nowhere near what even we would save for a single employee. So we're looking at being able to make some movements there as well. So between the COLA and step increases and changes in health and insurance, we do believe we're doing our best to kind of meet some of the unmet needs that are out there for our employees. Again, knowing that we really wish we could do better, and if the governor's budget or the legislative budget comes back much higher, we always have the opportunity to revisit these things as we get more information. But we want to be a little bit conservative going into the uncertainty with the current biennium there. We also know that we will grow. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea, do you have a question?
Yeah, back up to the COLA and step increases.
Sure.
What is the wellness stipend institutionalized? What does that mean?
Okay, so we 2 years ago we had a plan where we on recommendation from the Employee Engagement Committee, we provided a wellness stipend of $50 a month to employees. We didn't want to feel like we had to hold employees accountable to what they were spending that $50 a month on, but yet just it really is just pay at this point. So we want to just add that to the salary schedule as opposed to having to keep track of. So $600 a year if you're a 12-month and full-time employee is figured. It's going to be figured into that raise ultimately. So we're not just lining out, oh, you get $50 a month as a wellness stipend. Because we weren't accounting for if people were spending it on wellness, and I didn't want to get in people's business about what's wellness for them or not. So we're going to just pull it into the salary schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We do anticipate some additional revenue for the college from growth. We have been growing quite a bit, as you know, and we're continuing to grow. We're not capped as a small institution, so we will get funded for all of the FTE that's eligible for us. And again, it's a 3-year average, but we have increased quite a bit over the past 3 years, right? Last year we were at 513 FTE. I think this year we're tracking to be somewhere between 550 and 560. Next year we'll probably be in the 580-ish range, 590 range. So we get to count that FTE. So our piece of the pie is going to get a little bit bigger relative to others and individuals there. So that will help as well. We are discussing tuition and fee increases. The board has had a position in the past that they don't want to, that they want to keep up with inflation to the extent possible so that there isn't all of a sudden this need to have one large tuition increase. We're looking at a tuition increase that's roughly in the 4% range for tuition and fees. I would love to say with certainty that, oh, Pell will cover that increase. I have to be honest, I don't know. I think the Pell is safe. That would if the Pell program went away, that would force institutions to close, let alone the impact it would have on our communities of individuals trying to get an education. Worst case scenario, I think probably will be status quo with Pell. And I think that this increase won't be a huge impact on students. But again, we always have the ability to midstream alter things if we need to. If we feel that we've outpriced students or whatever, we can roll things back as needed. But we're looking at 4%. And the reason we look at 4%, there is a price index, much like the consumer price index, that's called the Higher Education Price Index, HEPI. And they put out every year an index of inflation that's specific to higher education institutions based upon our bargaining agreements and things across the country. And that's going to come in this year somewhere in the 3.7-ish% range. So we're trying to stay right within that higher education inflation index there. Timber revenue, we don't really know what to expect. We are still a little bit insulated, if you will, from some of the timber issues that are happening because of the delayed harvesting from some of the sales. And also we have, Mary Faith knows this much better than I do, but we have trees that are in our forest that aren't part of that forest management plan. So it allows us to have a little bit more, we can harvest a little bit more board feet than maybe perhaps other counties might be able to based upon their forests. So we're not anticipating a big hit on timber revenue, but again, that's one of those things that we don't really know. But we will finish. I mean, we'll have. We're looking at ending up this year probably with a $500,000 to $600,000, I don't hate to say surplus, but it's just because of cost savings of unfilled positions and things like that. So we do have a little bit of wiggle room to still be able to implement some of these changes. But we also are putting aside some strategic fund money in the budget because we've got 30,000 square feet coming online that we know is going to cost us more money, and we're just not exactly sure what that's going to be just yet. So we want to be able to have in the budget some discretionary funds that we can use in case we overestimate or underestimate what some of the costs are going to be for the new facilities. And the other piece that's going to impact some of our stores is going to be some of our is the fact that the CIT building, we are moving forward with that, and you know, the estimates for that were pre-COVID even, and things have escalated even since COVID in the past year or two. So we know that's going to cost us some additional money as well. So that's kind of what we're thinking about there. I mean, I'm certainly open to questions about our thought processes around any of this. Any concerns or anxiety any of this might bring you. I mean, I'll do my best to answer that, and if I can't answer it, I'll ask CFO Montazeri to be able to address that for you all.
No questions or comments for Paul?
Well, my only comment is that definitely I have a sense of a very positive situation here as far as monetary and moving forward with programs. It's just right now on the national level, things are pretty iffy. So I think everybody has a sense of angst a bit, but really hoping that things will continue to be as stable as possible in the future. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. Betsy, we had that conversation actually earlier today, is that we want to be able to focus on the things that we do have some control over. I mean, there
Right.
certainly are things that are going to impact higher education without question, and I'll chat a little bit in the president's report about that. But as an institution, we're very stable right now. We are in good shape. We do have good support for our students, and we're just as you mentioned, there's a little angst and anxiety right now about overcommitting, right? And so we just want to make sure that we honor our employees to the best that we can. We don't take advantage of our students, and we just keep our eye on our mission.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, then we will move on to 4C, which is Board Policy 6340, bids and contracts. It's the first reading. Paul.
I get a lot of airtime today, huh? Give me 1 second to pull this one up. I didn't print this one out. We have, as you know, we've been going through some of our policies and procedures to try to get language that is either current, up to date with regard to legal regulations. And as we do that, we're moving over to a new numbering system through the OCCA library. This is bids and contracts here. It is a first reading for this. It's not a legally required board policy, but I felt it was worth including because it provides guidance, both this and the AR, which you don't approve, but College Council does. Really outlines the processes around which we solicit bids and award bids and contracts, and really basically what this is doing is basically saying that we will follow Oregon state law in soliciting and awarding bids. And as you know, we changed, I think it was last year or the year before, we changed the limit to that reflected by the law, which is 150,000 for what requires board approval. And so forth. But this language is pretty straightforward with language that we had before, just putting it in a slightly different format.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on this document? If not, we can move on, and we'll have the second reading next month, presumably.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 5A, which is mission fulfillment and transfer rate. We have Director McCarley and VP Hansett.
There. I'm actually gonna tag in with Taylor Howard, who is here from Rhoda's office. And I think if I can get the ability to share, which I do have the ability to share, I'm gonna share everyone's favorite PowerPoint slides, although Taylor has sassed them up. So you're gonna see some slides you have not seen before.
Do you want to introduce Taylor? I don't know that we've had her at a board meeting before.
I will, and she's going to do a better job actually of introducing herself.
Oh, good. Never
Yeah. Can you all see the mission fulfillment, the placemat?
Yes.
I'm sharing the right screen. I always worry about that.
You can, but if you can zoom, it's not.
Yep, full screen. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So Taylor Howard, who is works in student services and is our Tillamook Open Campus coordinator. Do I have that right, Taylor?
You did, yes, thank you.
Oh, I got it right. Okay, cool. Yeah, Taylor will introduce herself more fully here in a minute, but just to give some context. So at the beginning of every meeting, and you all aren't bored with this because it's always so interesting, right? Right? It's so interesting. Okay. We keep it different every time. As you recall, we're walking through each of our mission fulfillment metrics to talk just briefly about the metric, about what the trend is for each of those metrics, and then to give folks who are doing work around influencing that metric the opportunity to talk about their work. And we haven't really looked a lot, really, if at all, we haven't had much conversation here at the board level and really at leadership level as well. We haven't talked a lot about transfer rate. So this will be an opportunity for Taylor to talk with you all about her work around transfer. But yeah, we haven't talked about transfer rate very much. So this is the context, right? I want to direct gesture towards the board, but of course, we're on Zoom, so the gesture is not as doesn't have the impact that you always want to have. But always these metrics are set within the context of our strategic plan, because that's how we judge and structure all of the work that we do, and you all get that. But so when we talk about transfer rate, this is I always want to set this in the context or be really clear about who we're talking about, right? So we're talking about the percentage of first-time, full-time TBCC students. These are credit students in who start in their fall term, who transfer to another college within 3 years of starting at the college, right? So this is students who are transferring to another college, but it's just that narrow cohort, right? We very often we're just talking about those students who start in the fall term. So it's a really narrow group of students. Plenty of our students start, as we know, in winter, in spring, and transfer to other schools, right? So there's a lot of different kinds of students who start in a lot of different ways with us. So this is a really narrow cohort, only including undergraduate degree-seeking students. But you all know that because we talk about that every month. And so the chart is structured in the way that we always look at it, right? With the blue line is transfer rate for that cohort for TBCC students. And then the mustard colored line is our IPEDS comparison rate, right? So it's still those same 6 colleges and their transfer rate over the same period. Same kind of students, right? Fall start students, new to their college students in that fall term, first time full-time students. And so you kind of see the trend. We use a 3-year rolling average. Again, we use that 3-year rolling average because our cohort is so small. That first time full-time cohort is often around 40, 50 students, right? Such a small group. And so those percentages can jump around a lot, right? So for mission fulfillment for 23-24, which is the most recent year that we have, that rate was 17.6. What I added in here in gray is we have more recent numbers that we're just able to calculate, and that's why I added them in gray. They're not in the placemat. It's kind of fresh, hot off the press. So I was able to add those in here. We see that our more recent data, our number ticked up to 18.5. Our IPEDS comparison group, their rate ticked up to 16.7. Was that useful? I don't know, but it's just we do have a little bit more recent data to add in there, and so our trend line ticked up a little bit. Should we worry about the fact that blue line was angled down a bit for a couple of terms? Not at all, right? Because that trend down is just for a few years. I wouldn't worry about it. And we've got Taylor on the case. That's the other piece, right? We're really focused on it, right? We're focused on transfer rate. Questions about transfer rate before I turn it over to Taylor?
So we don't have data beyond 2019? That's, 6 years ago.
Well, it is and it isn't, right? Because it's students who started in the fall of 2019. So that's 2019, 2020 students who started in 2019, 2020, but then we give them 3 years. So that brings us up to 2022, 2023. But then because of reporting delays, we have to report our data to iPads, and then they have to collect all the data, and then they send it back to us, right? So I have more recent data for TBCC, but not for our iPads comparison, right? That national data isn't more recent. So it does seem like a long time ago, but we've got to give them 3 years to find out where they went and if they went, right? So yeah, so some measures, it's like completion rate, right? It takes 3 years. The data is going to have a bit of a lag. And then if we want to see how we did compared with other colleges, that builds in a couple years of lag as well. And it's just kind of unavoidable. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Taylor, tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Erin. You're
And
probably
tell me when to change slides.
Yep, you're probably gonna have to press that button a lot. I was imagining having my teacher clicker, and
Yep.
that is not the case in Zoom. So bear with me. But good evening, everybody. It's really great to see you all. I introduced myself briefly at one of our last meetings when the success coaches and I were at the meeting, but it's a pleasure to be back and to talk to you a little bit more about myself, my background, and where I'm kind of taking transfer advising at TBCC. Erin, would you mind progressing the slide? Thank you. And you're gonna have to press it a bunch of times. I think
Okay.
let's try for 4 or 5 times and see. There you go. So at TBCC, I've been really working to identify what my role is inside the student services team. I really consider myself to be a member of that team and not just this OSU person who shares an office. So at the base, certainly my job is to provide transfer advising and support for current and prospective students. I regularly visit all 3 of the major high schools and Wilson River in our county, and connect with students at their schools to talk to them about their options and opportunities, both locally and beyond. Once students get to TBCC, I help them figure out what their steps look like after their time at TBCC. If that includes additional training or pursuing a bachelor's degree or whatever their path looks like, I can help support them on their individual journeys. I do work for Oregon State, though I'm happy to support students in any post-secondary programming, so I do not have to, push OSU at all if that's not the path that works for them. So I consider myself to be a bit of a generalist for understanding the transfer process and some of the programming that exist in other Oregon institutions. Beyond that, I am a member of the OSU Extension Office, and so I spend a lot of time in community outreach, developing partnerships with local organizations, high school visits, tabling at community events, and all of that kind of thing. We also host bilingual college workshops for high school students, helping them complete FAFSA and those things, and info sessions about specific programs, visiting high school classes, and talking to them about opportunities in that career field. And I hope to help maintain and further develop the transfer articulation agreements with OSU and the other state schools in Oregon, to help make sure that students are getting the credits that they need and that their credits will transfer when they approach those other organizations. I figured we could all use some pictures, so I threw some in there. Like I said, I really do consider myself to be a member of the TBCC team. So I serve on the student services team. I'm also pretty relatively tech savvy. So I've volunteered myself for the Genzabar user group to help the college better utilize the student information system that they have. I'm a member of the AI work group to help establish information for staff, students, and faculty in how AI is affecting what we're doing. I'm also a member of the Satisfactory Academic Program or Progress Committee to help ensure that students are making wise choices. Beyond TBCC, I serve on the Oregon YMCA Youth and Government Program Committee, which is an incredible civics organization that I'd love to talk to you all more about at a later time. I came to this role from Tillamook High School teaching business through their CTE department. So I serve on that committee for the current CTE business teacher. My OSU colleague, Nat Macias, is the program director for OSU Juntos Afuera, which is a program for Latino and Latinx students in our county to experience STEM careers outdoors, which is amazing. And recently we just worked in partnership with Oregon Shores to get an ROV grant to help students learn about building their own remote operated vehicles. I can you tell that I love this place and these people and doing these things? Anyways,
You can tell.
Yes.
Yes, up on the top there, that picture is from last year when we drove down to Salem for the Youth and Gov Conference. The students get to sit in the actual House and Senate chambers of the Oregon State Capitol and discuss their ideas with other students. It's very cool. And down below is a picture from the ROV workshop. I've got one more slide.
Awesome.
So this is year one. I started in July. These are my top priorities for this academic year, and I hope to expand it more in the future. Certainly, my job is to advise transfer students, so I wanted to develop those mentorship relationships with students. I also want to increase student awareness of transfer opportunities. What does it mean if I took 2 years at the community college? What if I did that in 3 years? What kind of programs are available to me? That's what I want students to know about. Couple more. Thank you. I would like to expand the partnerships with local universities and other community organizations, both within our county. I think there's a lot of opportunity for workforce development and all of that great stuff, but also making sure that TBCC is a known name with our college partners as well. And Aaron, I threw this one in. I'd love to help improve our data tracking on our transfer success rates because I think there's a lot of folks that fit that requirement but don't make it onto the data, and I'm happy and excited to help.
Interesting. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
And I'm not sure if there's one more on there.
Oh,
yep.
There was one more.
Yeah, there was. It was developing targeted supports for students. I just want to help support students in being successful here and beyond. So yeah, that's the me.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Taylor?
So Taylor, you said that you began in July of 2024. Is it a 1-year fiscal year thing, or you're here for the duration, or?
As far as I'm aware, I'm a permanent employee.
Okay.
And hope to remain so.
It seems,
Oh yeah, we're holding on to her.
Right. Yeah, it seems like a really necessary position for the students.
Right. We share a position with Oregon State. This position, this is, you may all remember Megan Dean McKenna, and then before that Hayden Bush and others that occupied this position. When Megan Dean McKenna left last year, we met with Oregon State and decided to kind of really refocus this position around transfer, and it's been really successful, and we're really, really excited to have Taylor, and you don't need to say anymore that you consider yourself a part of the student services team. You are a part of the student services team, and you are a part of the TBCC family, and we couldn't be happier, actually. You do great work.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Taylor. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for explaining your work to us. It sounds like really important work, and listening to you talk, I found myself nodding along thinking, oh yeah, that should help. That should help. You know, it's all of the ways that the college works to provide safety nets to help people keep moving in their journey. And it sounds like that's what you're describing. So thank you. Thanks for your work, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Taylor, so much.
Okay, let's move on to the ASTBCC report with Riley and Areli.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So we have some things that we're going to talk about, but we're going to start with our top 3 goals or priorities
For
that
the
are going to be, for the year. The first one is fundraising, just for like, students and stuff like that. But also for a concession idea that we have, or I think that Riley filled you guys on in. We also want to, provide food for students and also have more student involvement. So next on our list is our daily needs drive that we did. I mentioned this during one of our winter events that we had, and it was that we raised over 500 items, which we surpassed our goal. So thank you to everybody who donated. And we also participated in other events. We had the winter welcome in the lobby. We had a good amount of participation at our welcome table. And we also had our crafternoon, which was basically a bunch of crafts where we did like holidays, like chains for, the Christmas decorations. And then we also had a paint night. I think some of you guys may have seen it. We spent a total of $8 and made $172 in profit. So that was really good. And Riley was the one who led it, and she says,
It was good, yeah.
Great.
Yep, thank you. We also have our midterm survival packs. I
Oh,
think.
yes, we have an example of them. This is mainly what our fundraising from the paint night was for. We wanted to put something together for the students, and we have an example of it right now. We have a little QR code for people to fill out a survey for like clubs they're interested in, so we can expand on the clubs at the college and see just what people are interested in. We have a little eraser, some Smarties, a little mint, a lifesaver mint, some gum, a little sticker, some tissues, and a mechanical pencil. So there's that. Yeah. What's next?
We had it in mind just to like give the students something during midterms because we know it's stressful for everybody, and I guess these are just things that everybody can use, and like nothing would go to waste.
Yeah.
Well, we also, with our QR code that we have in there, we wanted to get the students' opinions on like what clubs TBCC would be able to offer them and like kind of their interests. So that's why we used that.
Yeah, and we put the existing clubs that we already have on there to see, just to kind of spread some awareness about those as well, to get more people interested in, yeah.
And
So
then,
can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Are you going to give the midterm survival packs away to all students? And if so, how are you going to get them to the students?
We have them out right now. We had I believe there was an advertisement put on Canvas about them, and we have them available in the learning lounge right now, outside of the library and inside of the advisors room. We made 200 of them, so there's a good amount for students to come get.
Nice, thank you.
Did just the 2 of you make 200 of those?
No, it was our whole team.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah,
a lot of
we got all the stuff ordered, and then we assembled them last week, and now they're out for this until they run out. We'll have them out for people to have.
Great, great. Thank you so much. Oh,
All right, and then next on the list, we also have our concessions proposal. I know Riley talked about this on your meetings, but we wanted to know if any of you guys had any connections, because we do have to talk to the what is it?
The health department.
Health department, or just like in general, if you guys had any information that might be useful. We were just looking out and cheering to see if we could reach out for guidance.
Yeah, and I reached out to the person that Mary Faith Bell gave me her email, and I reached out to her. I haven't heard back yet, but I'm gonna try and follow up and see if we can hear back from her to get some guidance and stuff. So yeah.
Did you guys reach out to Jamie, Craig, or Allison?
I don't think so.
No.
I
I
send
can
you.
email you guys the contact for the health department.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We can
And then
we can help, Riley. We can help facilitate some of the conversation with the health department. Why don't you, one of you or both of you, shoot me an email and let's get together and put a plan together. So I want to loop in our facilities director, who's on here, Jason Lawrence, and he can help with that. We can kind of get a sense of help guide what the conversation should be with the health department.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll send you an email.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. And then we also have upcoming events that we wanted to tell you guys about. We have our game night. It's gonna be March 5th.
Yeah.
March 5th. So it'll be like passing midterms, kind of like the end of finals.
I think it's before finals.
Oh, before finals, yeah. Just so
2 weeks
people,
before finals. Yeah, yeah.
2 weeks before finals, so people can get their stress out. We also are thinking about doing an Earth Day volunteering opportunity. Those are some ideas that we have though. And then our final item here is the updating constitutions. We want to be able to finalize it for the next academic year. So that's what we're also focusing our attention on is the constitution. So we should be hopefully done with it this year.
Yeah, and I think we're pretty close to finishing it, and then we'll have to get that approved and yeah. But yeah.
But that's it. Yep.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Riley and Areli? Okay, hearing none. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to construction update with Jason.
Great, thank you. Well, I apologize to everyone. We had to cancel our meeting and our tour tonight. So I hope we can get that rescheduled. You know, I don't know if we want to schedule a mid-month tour or try to move it to the next board meeting. We'll reach out and try to coordinate something. I'm always available for private tours. If anyone wants to stop by, let me know. I'm more than happy to take you and walk the building with you. So if anyone would like to do that, please reach out. Been a busy month. So the good news is we have walls. The first floor of the HEB building is fully framed. They were just finishing plumbing and lining the walls today. We're hopeful that depending on weather that they'll start rolling the floor joists for the second floor. So they're actually going to be moving from the first floor up to start framing the second floor, hopefully mid to end of this week. So that's super exciting. So I was able to get in on Thursday and walk the building with all the walls up on the first floor, and it is impressive. You can actually see the size of the EMT lab, the nursing, all the sim rooms are all up. The event center, you can actually get a feel for the size. So I hope everyone can find some time to come tour. It's exciting to see it from paper to real life. So it is super exciting. Other big project we had is we finalized our water tap to the city of Tillamook. We tapped a 10-inch water line up on 3rd Street, ran that through our parking lot. Caused a little bit of headache for parking, but this should be one of our last interruptions to our parking lot until fall of next year when we pave. So that's exciting to get that work out of the way. So yeah, that's the HEB building. We're starting to form a lot of small groups. So we're in the middle of starting to set up our branding committee to start working through branding and signage. We're also getting, we have our requests out for our furniture vendors. So we're going to start putting together small groups for furnishing and equipment. The other big project we're working on is our solar array. So we have a pavilion and that's solar with the solar bus stop. And so we just brought on our solar consultant to finalize the details on that, which is exciting. And so a lot of progress, a lot of things going on. So I hope everyone can come out and tour the building with me. It'd be great. Moving over to CIT, we got through our first round of plan reviews with the county. Claire Company is doing the review for the new CIT building. We received their notes late last week, which were pretty minor. So we're hopeful to get that out of permitting here in the next 2 weeks and finalize our bid pack and get that out to bid. So we're still hopeful that we can get that out to bid in February, which is really exciting. So any questions I can answer for anyone?
I had a quick question / comment for you, Jason.
Sure.
Once the work is done for the pipe that you said that should be this week without disruption of parking, is there a way to better pulling in? I know we use the main loop from the fairgrounds, but with their fence and stuff like that, it's super tight for some of us, especially when like I leave class at 10 a.m. and most people are coming in. And there's been a few times that I have had to pull my side mirror in so I don't hit the fence on the way out. Is there a way to open up the other side for like on, so it's kind of like a circle on, you come in one side, you leave the other?
We currently, we tried to use the kind of the north side exit is dependent on weather. The problem is that is not paved, so it gets very muddy and unstable. But we
Yeah.
definitely, with the completion of the firework through the parking lot, we will be adjusting the fencing. There's a fire hydrant that gets set on Wednesday, and that will complete their work through the parking lot. And we should be able to improve the parking lot, tremendously after they're done with that work, which I apologize for the inconvenience. Just it's tough. But we're definitely trying to improve it every day.
And then if there's any more work when it comes to them moving fences, can we get notified by chance? That way we can kind of accommodate, like if it's going to take an extra couple minutes to wait for people to come in and out of classes, that we're not late.
We definitely can. We can work on that. We try to notify with any major impacts. The good news is after this fire hydrant, we should be pretty well intact for the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions, comments for Jason?
Yeah, I put up my hand, but I forget to.
Oh, sorry, Andrea.
Jason, you mentioned a solar bus stop. That's the first time I've heard about that. What do you mean?
What that is part of the solar. We have to spend X amount of dollars for solar technology. What we're doing is we're building a pavilion that is in the plaza, and there'll be a matching bus stop that will have a covered solar panel as part of the cover for the bus stop. And so that all kind of that solar energy is basically going to be captured and utilized for our outside lighting in the plaza.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. So it's good. It's exciting because we're going to get a brand new bus stop that matches the solar pavilion that kind of ties the plaza all together.
That's great.
Thank you. Well, Jason, do you want to try to set up another appointment with us tonight?
I'd love to set something up if you guys are available. We can absolutely, if you guys are up to it, we can set something up. We can email back and forth. I would love to get you in before next board meeting because it's exciting to see the main floor.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
Well, what about 2 weeks from now is the 17th, which is President's Day. How about Tuesday the 18th?
It definitely works for me if it works for you guys.
Yeah, what time are you thinking of?
I was thinking towards the end of the day, like 4.
4 o'clock?
It wouldn't have to be.
Could it be 3?
Good for me.
Tuesday the 18th, 3 o'clock?
That would be great. I've got a PUD board meeting at 4, and that would be cool.
That would be great. Okay. Mary, could you join us then? And Betsy?
Yeah, I should be able to. Yes.
I will not be in town on that day.
Oh, dang it.
Sorry. That's okay. I'll get a private tour. I'm sure Jason, I'll get an extra good tour from Jason.
Okay. All right.
I should be able to join as well that day.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay. So Tuesday the 18th at 3.
Perfect. That'll be exciting.
Great.
I'll
Thank
send
you.
out a calendar invitation to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well then let's move on to the financial report. Paul, I know we got a copy of it, but would you like to walk us through it?
Oh, you're really going to stretch my capabilities on this one. I will try. So green is good, red's bad. I think I remember that.
There you go.
Love
I
it.
think I remember that much. No, seriously, as I mentioned before, we're each month as we present these, we get a little bit more and more refined. We have been working still. We closed last year's books, so that's good, and so that helped us through that audit. We're continuing to refine some things. We are all caught up on any past due bills that we had otherwise, so we're in pretty good shape. This time of the year, we're 50% of the way through, and if I look at the expenditures, right, you can see we're less than 50%. Revenues greater than 50%, which isn't uncommon based upon timing of property taxes and things like that when they come in. So I like to just kind of look at the expenditures, and it looks like we're in good shape. Some of that will get caught up a little bit and we'll do it, but I would say that, a good bit of what's low there is because we did have some lagging and filling positions and things like that. And that kind of tends to impact it this way. But other than that, as far as I can tell, the budget looks really good. We're on track. We ended last year higher than we thought we were going to. We're on track to end this year higher than we were anticipating. So all of that sounds pretty good. And, as we get more information about moving forward with the budget for next year, that'll help too. But yeah, if you had any specific questions, I would encourage you to email them to me. If there's any of the numbers that don't make sense, I didn't have a chance to debrief with CFO Montazeri about this. So if something looks a little bit out of whack to you, I'm happy to chase that down. But otherwise, our finances are in pretty good shape.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Paul right now? If not, let's move on to the president's report.
All right. I'm a little more comfortable doing that one, I think. I have put my president's report in there. I just want to comment on a couple of things, and then I'll deviate a little bit to kind of update you on some of the latest legislative activity that's happening both at the state and national level. Our winter term enrollment's pretty good. We are tracking along as we anticipated, so things are pretty strong there. The state, as you know, has started, and they're in the middle of their legislative, well, not in the middle, but they've begun their legislative session. OCCA has some priorities, as we've mentioned before. We talked a little bit about those last month in terms of what we're looking for. There is some interesting legislation out there that potentially, depending upon where it goes, would impact us. A lot of legislation around adjunct faculty pay and board memberships and things like that. So, we'll just have to see what gets some traction there. Betsy serves on OCCA executive board and might have a little bit more info around some of that work. Betsy, do you have anything in particular?
Yeah, we have had three meetings, and we're talking about just clarifying our values statement and getting some good traction on verbiage there, for one thing. But that's mainly what we've been doing just the last couple of meetings. So I can't go too much, but we have a meeting coming up this coming Friday, and all morning meeting, I should say, that will definitely cover a lot more. I'm trying to think whatever else we have on the agenda for that, but I don't have it right in front of me, so. Okay.
Thank you.
But also, let's see, but I did send to everybody the update for college boards for February. You should be having that, and it's in sort of rough shape. I wasn't able to send it in its pristine form as I usually do. It just didn't want to work for me, but you have that, and there's tons of information, such as the Lunch and Learn webinars, which are so valuable. And there's one coming up on February 27th, which will highlight workforce and economic development and community college roles, impacts on our state's workforce and economy. So this looks like it's going to be very useful, informational. And it starts at noon, February 27th. I can send out more information later too. And I don't know if you're going to be talking about March 5th and 6th are the Legislative Summit and Lobby Day that some of us on the board plan to attend. Shannon's going, Andrea's going, I plan to go. It's always extremely valuable to get updated on what is going on in the legislature. And then every Tuesday at 4 o'clock, there's a meeting with people in OCCA to get us up to whatever is going on in the legislature as far as it concerns community colleges. So we're just getting going on that now. It's only the beginning of the session. Okay, I'm finished.
Paul, I was just going to mention that, like Betsy said, for the summit, that there's an advocacy toolkit that I can send to Lori and she can send out with how to use like the voter voice if people are interested in submitting testimonials and things like that.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll know a lot more once we see how, if things get, make it to the floor, or if they get to committee, and it's still really early stages for a lot of the state legislation now. So as we find out more, we'll certainly have some engaged conversations around that. Is there anything in particular, Britt, otherwise that you can think of that looks like it's making traction, or?
Not really, not yet. We have another meeting tomorrow, and then Wednesday I have a campus advocacy meeting. Wednesday I do. So I imagine I'll have some better updates. So John was just running into our last one from just getting off the floor testifying. So I should have some better information on Wednesday.
Great, thank you. We had I've listed for you on the president's report some events. I'll just call out a few that were kind of fun. We did have a beam signing, and we had a few of you there for the beam signing. And if you weren't there, we may have snuck your name in there somehow. Anyhow, that's a lot of fun. It will go, I believe, somewhere on the second floor. It is where it'll find its final resting place. But that was fun seeing everybody there for that. We had a nice sunny day, which was really a lot of fun there. We had a all staff meeting where we talked about some college updates. We talked about Oregon sanctuary promise and Oregon laws, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes, just about what employees should expect to do and what's expected of them with regard to sharing of student information. We also spent a good bit of time with our registrar giving some training on FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights Act, and the protection of student information just in general, right? Not immigration status in particular, but just student information. So that was a pretty interesting day. It was very engaging with our employees, so I really appreciated that. I mentioned to you before that we had applied to be part of the Rural Guided Pathways Project. We had our interview, and I think it went pretty well. I think it's either this week or next week. We can't really remember when they announce who the folks are, or the colleges that they're going to choose are. So it felt like the interview went really well, and was really, regardless, it's been fun to engage as part of that process. I do want to just comment, we had the chamber dinner. It's interesting, it was a beautiful sunny day, the day of the chamber this year. Last year was when we had an ice storm and half of us couldn't get there, but we had a really good mix of folks there. We had 16 people present there, and that's just at the tables that we had, and then there were obviously other TBCC employees and other parts of our community present there, so that was a lot of fun. And then I spent better part of last week in San Diego at American Association of Community Colleges Workforce Development Institute, and it was really a good institute. It's really centered around workforce development and community colleges as technical colleges, if you will, preparing for the workforce and workforce development. So a lot of career technical education conversations and workshops, a lot of conversations around apprenticeships and just higher education in general. I mean, you can imagine that there was a lot of conversation there. It was a national meeting, and there were representatives there from from the federal government, as well as, you know, all across the United States and even Guam. There was somebody there from Guam that was presenting. And we did have a lot of conversations, or I guess anxiety might be the right words, or uncertainty, after President Trump issued some executive orders around pausing federal funding to certain grants and projects. You can imagine the impact that that could have on higher education institutions. Most community colleges are, and certainly small community colleges like ours, don't depend a lot on federal funding for our operations. However, our students do depend on federal funding through financial aid, Pell Grants, and student loans to be able to attend college. So while our revenue might not be impacted from some of that work, certainly our students would be, and ultimately our enrollments would be impacted. About two or 3 weeks ago, in anticipation of changes at the Department of Education with the incoming administration, Representative Bonamici she convened a group of higher education presidents at institutions in the district that she represents. That meeting was just this past Friday, and I attended that, along with the presidents from University of Oregon, Oregon State University, Portland State University, Pacific University, Portland Community College, Clatsop Community College, and Ben Cannon, the executive director from HEC, the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, was present also with Congresswoman Bonamici. You know, I want to paint a picture of what the impacts or potential impacts are to TBCC. You as board members are going to be put in positions sometimes to be able to you know, have to make decisions on behalf of the college, and I kind of want to just let you know what we know when we know it. There were numerous executive orders that were given, and directives from President Trump that, while maybe not directly targeting community colleges, they do have some indirect, if not in cases direct effects, if they were to go into effect on community colleges and on Tillamook Bay Community College. Especially the executive orders, and a good number of them are focusing, as you know, on immigration issues, and diversity, equity, and inclusion issues, and other protections for some of our LGBTQ communities, and things like that. The fact of the matter is that while the executive orders are not necessarily legal, or I should say this, they're all not necessarily legal. The courts will need to resolve the legality and application of some of them, if not the majority of them. Certainly anything that's linked to already appropriated funding. The president does not control funding. Congress controls funding. However, you know, the Congress does support the president. The current Congress is of the same party as the president and does support the president, and that's their right to do so. So I do think that ultimately it's just going to take time. That what will have to happen is that there will have to be policy changes that occur through congressional action that ultimately will impact us. But in the meantime, it certainly does create a lot of confusion. Almost all of the executive orders that have been given are currently blocked. The state of Oregon has signed on to the lawsuits against the executive orders around immigration status. So, you know, we should know that there will be legal challenges to all of these, and we'll have to see how they shake out. Congresswoman Bonamici did expect there to be more executive orders, just some of the ones that she's hearing on the floor that people are worried about or that are getting kicked around. Certainly, policies around DEI work, diversity, equity, inclusion work, social justice work, minority serving institution rollbacks, funding for historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, Asian American serving institutions. All of those programs are controlled by the Department of Education currently. And even though there's talk of executive orders that would not necessarily eliminate the Department of Education, but would certainly limit the power of the Department of Education. All of those also will likely be challenged legally. The Department of Education was created by Congress, and as such can only be eliminated by Congress. You know, there certainly will be challenges moving forward from the Department of Education under the current leadership. You know, schools, churches, and other institutions are considered sensitive locations, and ICE and Homeland Security are not supposed to go into those places seeking or to detain immigrants or undocumented individuals. That, however, is not codified in law. That was only guidance that was given to Homeland Security, so that likely could go away. Congresswoman is trying to codify some of that language in statute. However, it's unlikely that that would make it through the current Congress to be able to be in there. She anticipates that there will be moves to cancel loan forgiveness programs, student loan forgiveness programs, all which, you know, impact our students, and that there will be a rollback in the protections that are afforded students from for-profit predatory colleges, not unlike Trump University, right? So I think that things will come our way, but the advice that I'm giving everybody is, and that I'm receiving so far, is that we need to not overreact, and we don't need to pre-comply, especially where directives go against our mission at the college. As I've indicated many times, I will follow the law, but I will also follow my conscience and serve our students and the mission of the college. Oregon, I feel very fortunate. I was sharing with my team earlier today. I could not do this job, just to be frank. If I was in a different state, it would be really challenging for me. Oregon has a long history of laws that limit state and local involvement in federal immigration enforcement. Those laws have been challenged in the past. During the first Trump administration, they were upheld. So there is a long history since 1987 of Oregon respecting the dignity of its residents and passing laws to protect the residents of the state of Oregon. We have been advised that we should follow Oregon state law, and most of our funding comes from the state of Oregon, whose laws and policies have been put in place for many decades to protect the citizens of Oregon. Also, I should say, passed pretty strongly with bipartisan support in the state of Oregon. Our mission is still what it is. Our goals are still what they are. Our support is still what it is, until we know otherwise, right? And are directed otherwise to do so. I think that what we will see is that we will see the current continuing resolution, which funds the federal government and therefore funds federal programs, runs out on March 14th. Current funding is protected, so to speak, from any of the executive orders. Likely, however, though, in working out a new continuing resolution to keep funding the federal government and these programs, there will likely be some strings attached to federal funding moving forward, and we will just have to wait and see what those are. And again, I will support our students, and I'll do what we have to support our students moving forward. So So it looks like basically at this point, you know, we're operating as business as usual, so to speak. We recognize the sensitivity around being able to serve students that do feel threatened, which is very real. They do feel threatened, and you know, we're obligated to do the best we can to continue to support them in any way we can, as long as we can. You know, so we'll just have to keep waiting, and hopefully some of the time will shake out some of this uncertainty. But again, the fear is going to be there, and you know, we're trying to just provide as stable of a learning and work environment as we can within the walls of Tillamook Bay Community College. And that's my report. Well, actually, it's not my report. I should point out just a couple upcoming dates. Well, first, February is National Black History Month. I encourage us to think about what that means and why it was started. We do have some upcoming dates. I will be out the end of the month on vacation, but reachable as needed. We do have, as Betsy and Britta mentioned, the OCCA Legislative Summit coming up March 5th and 6th. And our next board meeting, hopefully weather permitting, will be on campus in room 214, 215 on March 3rd. I would like to just point out, I wanted to give some kudos to Justin Kinzer. I don't know if many of you have met him or whatever, but he's a fairly recent hire for us in our payroll department. And, you know, he got our W-2s out early, which, hey, you know, what progress we're making there. So I feel really good about that. And again, in light of some of the work that you heard that Taylor's involved in, and all of our student services team led by Rhoda, they're just doing really great work, and they do feel just as empowered as ever to continue to provide support to our students that need it during these uncertain times. And that's my report.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments for Paul? I'm grateful to you for walking us through the changes and proposed changes in the federal government and how they may impact us, our community, our college, our students. I think it's on most people's minds. Everybody's bearing a certain amount of anxiety, fear, and concern about it. And I think, you know, business as usual moving forward, as though we'll be able to continue to provide the services we're providing now is the best course. It's the only thing, but I really just appreciate your thoughtfulness and your leadership and keeping us informed, and you know, it doesn't really eliminate our anxiety, speaking for myself, mine, but it certainly helps to talk about it as a group, or to hear you talking about it, and to know that you know, we're of a mind about how we want to continue to serve students. So thank you.
No, you're very welcome. I couldn't be more committed. I hope you know that. I can be very stubborn and bullheaded at times. But I will always, you know, focus on the students and the outcome and what we need to do. You know, I will be very open with you all and our students and the public about the issues and the challenges we have in front of us. Our community depends on TBCC and ability to continue to work towards its mission.
Thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot to us and to the students and staff.
Board members, do we have anything else? Any discussion items for you tonight? Hearing none. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Thank you.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Well, thank you all very much. It was interesting to return to Zoom and I think we did a good job.
You did an awesome job.
I think it worked well and I'm glad everybody is home and safe. So take care, everybody.
Okay, nice to meet you, Jen.
Thank you.
Stay warm.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Thank you. Take care.
Good evening,
bye,
everybody.
guys.
Bye. Hello.